Nutrition Heretic basically has two audiences. Those who are already eating a real food diet and those who are curious about improving their health through diet but not quite ready to commit. Our guest heretic today is Robin Crowle, who is in the latter group. Well, she was. After years of suffering from fibromyalgia, with skin issues and falling hair, she took the plunge into what she was so certain was going to be a boring, tasteless waste of time and a strain on her budget to boot. Well, she gave herself a week to see some improvement, which didn't exactly work out as planned, but she enjoyed the food so much that she stuck with it a little longer, and that's when the magic happened. Find out her secrets and what happened on this week's Nutrition Heretic podcast. So I'm sure you've heard that as you age, it gets harder to lose weight. Well, that's total bullshit because my friends Laura and Veronica Chows, they can prove it. They're a mother-daughter duo, and they've lost 125 pounds between the two of them at ages 50 and 20. And they've kept it off for over 2 years without starvation, deprivation, or hunger. So now you can learn their system and a whole lot more with a free 10-day trial to their online membership. They'll give you the diet, the recipes, classes, and more. Sign up today at nutritionheretic.com/utmost-diet.
Fat is bad for you.
I just pop a pill and I'm fine.
Meat is murder.
It's time for bad food punishment. It's time for real nourishment. It's time for the Nutrition Heretic.
The following program is provided as information only and may not be construed as medical or health advice. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. No action or inaction should be taken solely on the basis of the information provided here. Please consult with a licensed healthcare professional or doctor on any matter relating to your health and well-being. Aloha and welcome to the Nutrition Heretic podcast. This is Adrienne Hugh, the Nutrition Heretic, and today we are going to discuss what happens to people who make the change, who make the leap of faith and start changing their diet. Because one of the things that's been frustrating, and I'm sure the other practitioners out there will agree with me, is that people wait to make nutritional changes, like real nutritional changes, when they've got one foot in the grave. I've had people, with all kinds of, disorders saying, no, it's not that, the chronic headaches, the heart palpitations, the cancers. Oh, no, it's not my diet. It's, hereditary. It's something else. So, as, you folks know, I have a group on Facebook and, several people in there sharing, whatever content they find online, what's going on with their health. And, one person, was kind of in the background, kind of watching, occasionally asking questions, and, then finally one day took the leap. So she is our guest heretic for the week. She is an amazing success story, and she's only just getting started. Robin Crowle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
It's Crowle, but that's okay.
Crowle. Okay. I don't know why. Yeah, I realized after I said it, like maybe I didn't pronounce it right because we usually are, talking virtually, right, meaning, right. Written. So tell us a little bit about where you were before you started changing your diet.
I was diagnosed about a year and a half ago with fibromyalgia. I've been having a lot of skin issues. They call it HS. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's basically, it's not definitely, but they kind of think it might be also an autoimmune response where your body kind of makes these almost like skin boils and stuff, and they recur and they don't go away, and you can get more, and sometimes it gets so bad that you can get tunnels in your skin.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. So I started having problems with that around the same time, and I was really severely anemic. I had to go in and get a blood transfusion right around that time. So there was a whole bunch going on. So I got the diagnosis, and I went on medication, and it made me gain weight more than I already had. And it did help a little, but not too much. So I went off the medication, and for the last probably year, I was kind of just suffering
Right.
because yeah, I was in both conditions were really, really bad. It got to the point where I would drag myself through my workday, and I'm a secretary, so it's not like it's a strenuous job. And then I would collapse on the couch at the end of the day.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I was there myself, over 20 years ago when I was just, I would come home. And I had eczema as my skin problem, and I would come home from work and like basically just strip down, scratch the shit out of myself and then collapse and sleep for 10 to 12 hours and wake up and not even feel refreshed.
Exactly.
It was horrible. And, I had a relative of fibromyalgia, which is, chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yep.
It's
I've heard that.
basically the same thing without the pain. So what was your diet like at that point? 'Cause
Garbage.
I
It really
remember, I
was.
remember somebody telling me that she really doesn't like meat.
Yeah.
To,
And I
to
hadn't
which,
for years, years. I was more, I can't even, I mean, crap, potato chips, dairy. I love dairy,
Mhm.
cheese, all of that stuff. So I would eat that kind of stuff. Bread. It was so much carbohydrates and so much crap, really. I
Right.
mean, nothing. I can't even ramen noodles. I mean, just everything that you can imagine that has no nutritional value at all. That's what I ate.
Right. Now, was that because you didn't know any better, or because you had been through a weight loss surgery, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Now,
gastric bypass.
okay. So was this, the way that you ate, was that even approved given your surgery,
Oh no,
the bypass? Was that,
absolutely not.
or, who told you that was okay to eat? You know what I'm saying? Like
Nobody told me that was okay. This is what I think looking back now, because I did some research on severe anemia, and they say that if you get really severe, sometimes people have pica, which is the
Absolutely.
urge to eat non-edible things. And I think that's what was happening with the ramen noodles, because I wouldn't cook them. I wouldn't put
The
the
packet.
flavoring on them. I would just put them in the microwave and eat them raw. It was horrible. So there was nothing. There wasn't even any flavor to it.
Right.
And I got addicted to that for such a long time. And then once I got my iron under control, that addiction went away. But I think that
Mm-hmm.
was what opened me up for craving all the carbs and stuff that I
Oh,
hadn't done
totally.
before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I just got way off of any kind of eating plan that I should have been on because I was hungry all the time.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's something that I hear a lot. I'm hungry all the time. There's no way that I can change my diet because I'm just hungry all the time. How am I going to eat? This food is more expensive than what I'm used to. How am I going to feed myself all the time with this?
And can I tell you, I said to myself too, well, I stretched out my pouch, because I had the gastric bypass.
Right.
I'm like, oh, it's clear I stretched it out. Let me tell you what, going back to eating this way, no, I did not.
Right. Right.
It's all
right.
a matter of what you eat.
Yeah, totally. And I think, I've said this before on the show, and I know I've said this in the group, that a lot of times the cravings that we have are because there is something in that ramen noodle, for example, that naked microwave ramen noodle that mimics, let's say in your case, the iron that you were missing from your
Right.
diet. It's not a replacement for iron, but given the limitations you put yourself under for what you would eat, it was kind of, maybe I'm just getting a little bit of some kind of something that mimics those brain chemicals that I need.
Right.
And that's
That makes
where,
sense.
a lot of the pica, in my opinion, is showing up. And even when we look at the episode we did with, Julia Ross, who is the author of The Mood Cure and The Diet Cure, this is very much what she's saying, which is that, the people who crave carbs, for example, it's often, they've got, the brain chemicals that their chemistry is so imbalanced. The closest mimicker we have to some of these things are carbs and alcohol, drugs, you name it.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Right, exactly. So because you yourself have experienced, once you get the food under control, once you get the anemia under control, those cravings start to disappear.
Oh, yes.
Right. So, what were your, okay. Maybe I don't need to ask this. What were your cooking skills like?
No, I could cook. I
Okay.
just didn't cook.
All right.
So I mean, I was able to. I just was not a fan of cooking very much.
Right. And was that because you were so fatigued? Was it just?
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yes. The fatigue ruled my life.
Right.
I
Yeah.
used to say to people, I call in sick to my life most of the time because I had to work because I had to pay my bills. I didn't have to do anything else.
Right.
I've been taking American Sign Language classes for 6 years now. Every Wednesday night, I had to take the semester off because I couldn't do it. And all you do is sit there, and I could not get myself to get there. That's how bad it was.
Right. Now, was depression part of what you were experiencing? Would you say that you got into a depressive state?
Yes. Oh yeah. I think it got worse because I knew I couldn't do anything. I was in pain all the time. It was very mentally, it definitely messed with my mind a lot because I had to kind of say to myself, this is the rest of my life. This is it. You know what I mean? I got
Right.
this diagnosis. Things are never going to get any better. I have to live with being a bump on the log now. And it was so mentally, I think, yes, I definitely went into a depression trying to deal with all of that.
Right. And it really does call into question so many of the mental disorders that we're dealing with, everything from, bipolar, schizophrenia, to depression, just straight up depression, the impact that food can have on our lives. So, what was the kind of nail in the coffin? What was that moment that you were like, okay, enough of it. I need to get
The
a
truth
handle
was,
on this.
I was sitting there one day and I was in so much pain and I was so exhausted and I was useless. And I was just like, I prayed and I said, God, you need to smack me in the face with what you want me to do to make myself feel better. And literally the next day you tagged me in the group about that GAPS diet. And I went, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. And, I had to still go to Disney. I knew I couldn't do it at Disney. So I said, as soon as I come back from Disney, my vacation, then this is it. I have to do it. This is, if there's not a smack in the face more than that,
Right.
So that was my turning point, was actually praying, because I was like, I don't know what else to do.
Right. And sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to step back, let some outside force kind of shine through on you.
Yes. Yep.
Say,
Absolutely.
because we've been talking for a while. Like, you and I have known each other for what, 2-3 years?
Probably longer than that.
I was so nasty, not nasty, but like, I think I remember saying something a little snarky, because the one time you were like, well, I can't eat meat. I can't do it. I just, I don't like it. And I think I said to you, well, if you don't like meat, then you probably love carbs. And you were like, yeah. and this is what happens, right? This is, again, this is that, what I was saying about, when your body really needs something and you deprive yourself of it, there's something else that kind of mimics that feeling in the brain. So, or, in some key core way, that you allow yourself that. So, right. but you weren't vegetarian. You just weren't a fan of meat. You just,
I just wasn't really. I just didn't care for it. If it looked like it wasn't cooked right, if it tasted a little too dry, any of that stuff, I just couldn't do it.
Right. Okay. So then, once you made up your mind, okay, I'm gonna finally, take this by the reins. I'm gonna take control of my health. The doctors gave me this sentence and I don't like it. Something has to shift. What were some of the other blocks that came up for you? And I'm talking about not only, well, you tell me what some of the blocks are. I'm not going to even lead you on that one.
Okay. Well, finances was one,
Mm-hmm.
because, to eat all organic, to eat grass fed, it's a lot more expensive around here. And
Right.
It may be because it's Rhode Island and, half of the year things aren't grown and, the animals can't necessarily get out in the pasture in the winter. So I don't know if that's part of why it was a little more expensive, but it was finances.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would say the amount I would pay for food doubled, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm eating less. So I don't think it's as much as that, but it was definitely, more expensive. So that was a big thing. Knowledge, even though I've, sat in the group and I've listened and I've asked questions and stuff, I didn't feel like I had enough knowledge to make such a big shift.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very nervous, and I also have my own eating issues from the past that I was afraid would kind of come into play, because that happens a lot. If I think I'm restricting myself, then I panic. And so there was a lot of that stuff too that I was really worried that I wouldn't even be able to give myself a chance.
Right.
But
Right.
I did it.
Right. And then like what about flavors, tastes? You've made a couple of comments in the group about basically just not knowing that food could taste the way it does.
Yes. It's amazing. The first week I did it, I was like, I can't believe how good this tastes. It's better than anything I've tasted. I didn't feel like I was being deprived because I thought the food was amazing. So that first week kind of shifted my mindset, because when I started this, I said, I'm giving myself a week. That's all I can do. I'm
Right.
not going to be able to do this. I was negative because that's how I am. And I said,
you're from the Northeast. Yeah.
Yeah. I said 1 week and I'm going to see. And if I don't feel any better, I quit because it's too hard. That was
Right.
my mentality. And
Right.
within the first week, I was like, everything I make is so delicious. I didn't want to go back. I didn't feel like I was depriving myself at all. If anything, I thought I was kind of cheating.
Right, exactly, right? Because, and it's really interesting that you say that, because all the years I've been eating the way that I do, and granted, I'm not as restricted as you are currently, but even just the fact that I eat food that's not in packages, people think I'm starving myself. They think that I'm depriving myself, and that I'm, they like to wave stuff in my face or in my kids' face, like, oh, don't you want it? My kids are like, what is that? They're like, I don't eat things that are flaming blue or, whatever. So this is something that I think is a huge issue for a lot of people. And, I have plenty of vegetarian friends and vegan friends and stuff, but let me tell you, I think that 1960s, 70s stereotype of, good food, which was largely at the time, there was no paleo diet, or primal or just real food diet. It was mostly, vegetarian, which eventually morphed into vegan. But I think during that era, it really gave natural foods a bad rap, because even sometimes I'll walk into a health food store and I'm like, it's that nasty, beans and it's hay smell that comes out of some of these places.
It's soy everywhere.
Well,
That's
exactly.
Huge.
Exactly. Yeah. With as much information as we know about it now, I'm still horrified to see how much, people are still pushing it, and how much the soy industry has, still been promoting it as a health food.
Yeah.
And, just like a universal thing that everybody should want to eat for some reason. What about familiarity? Were you afraid that, your creature comforts, your ramen noodles or chips, that those things, you knew those things were going to be off the table, right? Yes. So was there something about this like unknown territory, like, oh, there's going to be a huge learning curve on how to eat this stuff, or how it's going to taste. I'm not going to, it's going to take a while for my taste buds to adjust. Was there anything like that going on in your head?
I honestly thought, I'm going to choke all this food down for a week. And if I feel a little bit better, then I'll try to move forward. I mean, literally, this was my mindset. I have such a strong mind when it comes to I have to trick myself. So saying to myself, just 1 week, you can do a week. You're not going to die if it's 1 week. And, you can choke down 3 meals a day for a week, because I thought that's what I would be doing. And at the end of the week, if there's any improvement, then you can kind of, reevaluate, which it turned out that there wasn't much improvement at the end of the first week, but I didn't even care because the food was so good. I was like, I can go a couple more months.
Right.
Like it was, yeah. So it was definitely, kind of trying. I had to kind of trick myself, because I didn't know. I thought the food would be gross. I did. I saw all this meat I'm going to have to eat. It's going to be disgusting. I'm going to have to choke it down.
Right. But now, you're immediately your brain, some part of your brain kicked in and was like, hey, this is what I was waiting for all this time. What the heck?
Yeah.
Why did it take you so long?
Sometimes I made soup for lunch this week. I made butternut squash soup, and I used the bone broth. But then I my mind goes to, I should have some kind of meat with this. I don't have any meat. It's just even though there's bone broth in there's no actual meat, where I would have never even thought of that before. So my mindset is even more aware of the fact that I need to get that in.
Right. Right. And yeah, there is a time, when you start consuming the broths and the meats that, people talk a lot about like, oh, your body's got to be alkaline and getting more and more alkaline foods. But what they forget or simply don't know is that your stomach is an acidic environment, and part of helping it to release hydrochloric acid, are the things that go into bone broth. Salt and literally the gelatin helps to create more acid in the stomach so you can digest more food. So a lot of times when people have this aversion to meat, yes, it's the carb addiction, but it's also that they haven't acidified their stomach enough to be able to process food, just any food really, more efficiently. So, that's definitely important. So, you checked in with us about a month in and you told us what life was like now. How is the pain, your weight? Because you gained back weight after the bypass.
Yes, I gained quite a bit. I gained, I don't know, not the whole, I gained all but maybe 30 back.
Wow. And, about how much? I don't want to get too much in your face.
I think I think it was 70. I don't remember the exact amount I lost. So maybe I gained back 70.
Okay.
70 or 80. So it was quite a bit.
Right. Okay. And that was 10 years ago you had that done. And then it just kind of crept in as things fell off balance.
Yes. Stress comes and I went back to my old coping mechanisms, I guess.
Right. And then, like you said, you thought you had stretched out your stomach.
I was hungry every couple hours. I couldn't keep myself full. And I said, I destroyed this surgery. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to do this and survive.
Right.
As I was planning for this diet, I kept being like, snacks. I don't know if you remember me asking in the group, what kind of snacks can you have? Because I was so petrified that I was going to be starving that I needed to have healthy options, or because I would be afraid that I would, slip off.
Right.
And very surprisingly, it was nothing like I thought it was going to be. First of all, I can't eat. My boyfriend said I eat probably 40% less than I was.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's tremendous.
Yeah. And what I eat is very small, and it will keep me satisfied for hours. I can go today. I only had, I had breakfast and I didn't have anything for a snack, and I was worried that it was going to, the same old thing.
Right.
And then next thing you know, it's 12 o'clock and I'm busy doing something. I didn't end up even getting my lunch until 1:30.
Right.
So I would have never been able to do that before,
Yeah. So and getting enough fats is definitely one of those things that helps to keep your blood sugar stable and to keep you going for longer, as with all this bad press that fats get. And then, the few people who say that you can't eat fat only want you to get it from avocados or whatever.
Right.
There's really something to be said for just getting fats the way they were created, in a variety of forms. So let's, give us an update. What's, your weight, your skin, your pain?
Yeah, my pain, maybe once a week, if that, I'll be in pain. And the pain that I'm in is probably the pain that I used to have every single day.
Right.
So my bad day now is probably what my good day was before. Most days I have minimal to no pain. I wouldn't say none, but I would say very minimal.
Mm-hmm.
If I was on a scale of 1 to 10 before, I was probably at a 9 or 10 most of the time.
Wow.
Now I'm at, a 1 or a 2.
Right.
So
And
it's a huge difference.
How do you know it's a 1 and like what does 10 look like and what does 1 and 2 look like?
10 looks like I would be at work sitting at my desk and I would have to hold my head up with my arm because I was in so much pain that I could not even hold my own head up.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And so then I would come home and I would lay on the couch and I would, this sounds gross, but I would have to pee and I would hold it as long as possible because I didn't want to get up and have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
Because it was so much pain just to get up.
Right.
So, I mean, that was probably my 10, where now I noticed, I come home and if I sit on the couch, if we're watching TV, I'm sitting up. I mean, it's the stupidest thing, but I used to lay down. Now I don't even think to lay down. I'm sitting up doing whatever. That's a huge difference for me.
Tremendous. Oh my gosh.
Getting up to go to the bathroom when I have to go, I do that. Sometimes I get up to do other things that I just wouldn't have done. And my boyfriend even said, he goes, you have a lot more energy, don't you? He's like, you would have never gotten up and done this before. So all of that
Right.
between, less pain, but also more feel, not all that like, like it was such heavy fatigue. It was like walking through water all the time.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
it's really not there anymore. Like I said, if I have a bad day, it's probably what my good day was before.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible. And even more shocking is that you haven't even been doing this that long.
No, I think maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah. I was going to say it was just, about a little over a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anybody who's out there thinking that they can't do it, that it's not going to make a difference, listen to Robin. It does it makes a huge difference. And we want to, what really disturbs me is how much in our society we do rely on our doctors. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't consult our doctors and that our doctors are idiots, although some of them are. But, really the power is in your hands. And if you want to heal, you cannot, you can go after, I'm a big fan of energy modalities and things like that. But even the experts in energy work, people like Donna Eden or Gary Craig, they will tell you that your diet is important. You cannot repair without giving your body the tools to repair. You wouldn't pour lemonade in your car and expect it to work. You have to,
I mean, being on this side of it now, that so makes sense to me, where I think before it was just kind of words.
Right.
But I mean, being on this side and seeing everything that I put in my mouth has some nutritional value in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And what a difference. I mean, I'm living proof. It's amazing. I don't know. I'm shocked. I thought I would feel better. I just didn't think it would be this good, and it kind of snuck up on me.
Right.
Because the first couple of weeks, I was still feeling a little crappy, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, I haven't really been sore in a couple of days. Like, it just kind of all of a sudden was like, it's going away.
Yeah, you just find yourself doing things that before you had to actually deliberate about whether or not you would do them, right?
Exactly.
Like, am I going to spend this energy doing this or going to the bathroom? Okay.
Yes. So. And it really was about that. And it's so sad, but it really was. It was like, I'm going to hold this as long as I possibly can, so I don't have to get up and stumble my way to the bathroom.
Right.
That's not even a thought anymore.
Right, totally. So what about your skin? You were saying that you had skin issues. What's going on there?
It was pretty bad. It almost looked like acne on my chest and my trunk, but it wasn't. I went to the dermatologist, and they said it's probably an autoimmune response to something else, because everything seemed to be autoimmune with me. And it was these breakouts, and they were painful. And I had been on, I want to say, I think it was, I don't even remember, some kind of pill. They put me on some type of cream. They put me on like an antifungal pill, like all these different things, and nothing worked.
Right.
And I didn't know what the heck was going on. That's almost gone completely. And it was, my entire trunk was covered. It looked like I had leprosy.
Oh man.
That's almost entirely gone. And the other stuff, the boil stuff, it was a lot of damage, and I can see that it's getting better, but I have a long way to go.
Right.
But it's going in the right direction.
Right. And you've even said that there are people at work were commenting that your skin is starting to look better.
Yeah. I was told my skin looks good, which I noticed. I took a picture with myself and my dog one day, and I said to my boyfriend, look at my skin. I don't look as wrinkly. I don't know how that's possible, but it looks like my wrinkles kind of are not as, they're
not as prominent.
Obvious. Yeah.
Right.
And my skin is mostly clear. It just has that more, I don't even know how to explain it. It's not so dry and sallow anymore. It just looks, I mean, I'm still pretty pale because of, I'm assuming, the anemia, but I just look healthier. People have remarked on it, and they've said to me, even my eyes, they said you had this look in your eyes where it was just like constant pain, or just, they're like, that's gone. It's just not there anymore. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm not in constant pain, know?
Right.
And dragging yourself through your life is difficult. So not having to do that is huge.
Right. And then what about your weight?
Well, I had started trying to eat better and like upping my steps when I started my new job, which was in February. And from February until November, I lost 22 pounds. And then from the beginning of November until now, so the last 6 weeks, I've lost 22.
Whoa.
Oh, actually 22. Yeah.
Wow.
22.5 to be exact. Yeah. So in 6 weeks, I lost what it took me, 7 months to lose?
Right. Right. And, we had a guest last year or the very beginning of this year. Same thing. She took 2 years to lose, I forget the number, but I think it was like 20 pounds. And then she bought Frenching Your Food and started following that and effortlessly lost like another 20 and in about the same amount of time, about 6 weeks. So yeah, it was just, she's like, I wasn't even trying at that point. I was just following these basic principles of eating real food and, making sure I get enough protein and making sure I get enough fats. And lo and behold, the weight just peeled off. And
and that was not my goal. My goal was to feel better. I said,
Exactly.
if I lose weight, that'll be like a little icing on the cake, but that's not my goal. My goal is I need to be able to function in my own life.
Right.
And 6 weeks later, I lost as much as it took me 7 months to do. That's a great icing on the cake.
And you know what? And that's the thing is that I've been trying to educate people on this, and they all, theoretically they believe me, but they can't let go. Particularly women can't let go of this weight loss ideal. So, we get very attached. It's really sad because even, some of my trainers over the years, so, people like, Datis Karazian, who, kind of not popularized, but he's one of the more outspoken people about autoimmune disease, in particular Hashimoto's, and, how to eat for that. And he was even saying like, look, if you want to motivate people to basically pay you, tell women that they're going to lose weight and tell men that they're going to gain muscle. But it's really a sad place to be in, where we value the vanity more so than the feeling
than
good,
the health,
than the actual health. Because you know what? I always tell people I could starve you into losing weight, which is what 99% of all other eating programs do. They starve you and they're like, look, you lost weight. And then as soon as you start to eat again, like that show, the show, The Biggest Loser, all those people have not only gained back weight, but most of them have gained back even more than what they started out.
Right.
So yeah, this is huge. What about exercise? Are you doing anything now that is encouraging that? Because I think that's another thing that can be a little bit misleading, is that, oh, well, if you want to, lose weight, you got to do a ton of exercise and you got to exercise more. And, we see this fail every day, but I don't know. Are you doing any exercise?
So before November, when I was, before I started the change in eating, I was doing, I think, 11,000 steps a day. That was my goal.
Okay.
I would get up every hour at work and take a lap around the building or whatever. And, I was getting 11,000 steps a day. When I switched to this, I was so overwhelmed with the diet and the eating that I put that to the side. And I said, eventually I'll get back there. But right now I really need to focus on the eating. I don't need to worry about the exercise. So no, I'm really not.
Wow.
My intention is to eventually work myself back up to being, because they say 10,000 steps a day is healthy, just to be a little more active.
Right, totally. There's no problem with that. People don't think that I'm anti-exercise. I'm not anti-exercise. I'm anti-killing yourself.
Yes. Maybe if I'm lucky, I get 5,000 a day now because I've been so busy at work and everything. And like I said, I didn't care about it. I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself, and I still lost as much in a month as I did the whole year when I was doing the steps.
Right.
So
right.
It's not, to me, it's clear that the nutrition is so much more important.
Right, exactly. And you're feeding your muscles now. Before you were depriving them of just being able to support themselves and to support your structure. So this is really a great take away for a lot of people. Exercise, yes, it's important. If anything, if you can't work in the exercise, just practice some deep breathing. This is one of the beauties of yoga, is that it is not strenuous. Generally speaking, it should not be strenuous. But it focuses very much on making sure that you're getting adequate oxygen, which in my opinion is at least 70% of the benefit of exercise, is that forcing yourself to take in these deeper breaths. So,
because I think we take shallow breaths.
Absolutely.
And don't realize it. as a rule.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a great book. I'm going to try and get her on the show, even though the book is out of print now, called Jumpstart Your Metabolism, written by a woman named Pam Grout. And what she talks about is she cites a lot of studies, and she says that if you line up people from skinny to fat and you watch how they breathe, the skinniest people take these huge deep belly breaths, and the heaviest people are kind of panting and, just like this very shallow kind of breath. So, and I've watched this, and I even have a friend who is totally, really, really skinny, almost scrawny, and she's got an obese sister. Her sister is a complete mouth breather. You can tell she can't breathe through her nostrils, and it's these very shallow breaths. And the sister, who's thin, is, she has almost a man's voice, for lack of a better description, because her breath is coming from so deep within her body. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to watch people once you have that little bit of knowledge, and then you can draw the lines, and you see it with children, you see it with adults. I mean, it's one of those things that rarely, I don't think I've seen an exception to the rule. And there's got to be, I think there's an exception to just about every rule. But it is fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
So, talk to us a little bit about your shopping experiences. What did shopping look like before? How do you shop now?
Shopping before was make a list, send the boyfriend into the grocery store. That was shopping before. Now, I found a local farmer's market that they do a winter market inside.
Nice.
So thankfully, so the first week I went to the farmer's market and was completely overwhelmed and didn't know what I was doing, what I was looking for, how to tell, what to do. And then I realized that as you talk to the vendors, they're very knowledgeable.
Yes.
And they're very willing to offer you. The guy that I get my meat from was giving me a recipe for bone broth, and he was like, you should really use the knuckles because it has the collagen in it and stuff. And I was just like, wow, stuff I had no clue. Well, not that I didn't have any clue about, but
right.
I didn't know about knuckles and things like that. And he's like, yep, you do this, you add this, you make sure you put this and that. And I'm just like, wow. So they're more than happy to share the information. So once I realized that, I think I relaxed a little bit and
these are the cheapest cuts. These are the cheapest cuts. That's the thing, is like people think like, oh, I'm going to have to eat a steak every night. No, you don't have to eat a steak every night, but getting those cheap, sinewy, collagen-y, fatty pieces that's what that's what the healthy world eats.
Yeah.
You look in third world countries, that's what the people, the people who are doing all the labor, they can do all the labor because they're getting the cheap cuts and the most plentiful cuts.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I mean, even with me, like beef, it was one that I really struggled with. And I made this butternut squash beef stew. It was so good. And I'm craving it. Like, that's crazy because I hated beef, but I'm craving it because it was so good and it was so delicious. And it just, it's so opposite of anything that I thought that I would be thinking, feeling. I look forward to the farmer's market now. I look forward to see, I like to make my little list and see, I go on and kind of try to find recipes ahead of time.
Right.
I want to try this week. And so I get all the ingredients and I put it on my list, and then I go through the farmer's market and try to see, what different ingredients and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a fun adventure now too.
Yeah. And, even, throughout the years, guys I dated, whatever, and we'd go to different markets and they're like, wow, I didn't know food could be like this. Even before I was actually, doing all of this, like I would still shop at, like you say, the Chinese market, and they'd be like, wow, it's like going to the zoo, because there was like all of this new stuff that they had never seen, and it's got its own excitement. And I think that a lot of that excitement about the variety of food that's available and the alternatives, if you can't digest one thing well, like what are you going to replace it with? Do you need to replace it? What about that one day you just want, that thing that your grandmother used to make, but you can't eat a lot of those ingredients right now? there's a lot that opens up through understanding not only farmers markets, but ethnic markets and some of the varieties that are available there.
And just thinking, I think thinking nutrition wise, like I was never a huge sweet eater, but occasionally I would. And probably 2 or 3 weeks in, I had a craving for something sweet. So I had gotten Granny Smith apples and I fried them up in some butter. And then I put like a little, like about a tablespoon of raw honey and then some cinnamon. And it's like eating an apple pie, but so much better.
And fast. It's like, you can do that in under 10 minutes, right? Peel an apple and saute it up and everything.
I don't even peel it because I thought I was under the impression the skin was good for you. So I don't even peel the apple. I literally fry it up just like that.
Right.
And the Granny Smith apples, the skin's not that bad.
Right.
But I mean that, and I thought, well, I hope I'm not going to stop wanting this every night. I don't.
Right.
Occasionally I'm like, maybe I'll make some more of those, but it's not. I thought maybe I would get that, how you start to, that's a kind of like a cheat or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Not at all. Not at all. It was nice. It satisfied my craving. And I knew that I was giving myself healthy, nutritious food.
Right, exactly. And there's also, I think that you start to understand where to focus your energy on too. Once you start doing it, because you know that your energy is into your basic 3 meals. Yeah. And then, okay, if I have time, if I have the ingredients on hand, I might saute up an apple or, sweet potatoes like this time of year. My daughters and I, sometimes we like to, back in New Jersey, we would get those really, those sweet potatoes that were not quite ready to be picked. They were just basically like little fingers. And we clean those up sometimes. And while we're eating dinner, I would stick them in the oven, coat them in coconut oil and put them in the toaster oven and let them roast for 10, 15 minutes, whatever it took for them to get soft. And then after our meal, they're like, oh, mommy, can we have something to eat? And then, we'd pull out some the sweet potatoes and they'd eat those. And it's, everybody's happy. It's not, your sweet cravings change so dramatically. And it's okay to have sweet cravings. This is another thing that people don't understand. No, we don't want to drown ourselves in sugar. We don't want to replace that sugar definitely not with artificial sweeteners. We don't want to, necessarily replace it with honey and maple syrup, all the time, at least. Right. But, it's okay to want a little piece of apple, to want some sweet potato or pumpkin or something else that is really just a food and, it's going to digest like food and your body's going to be able to get rid of what it doesn't need and use what it can. Yeah. And it does satisfy you. It really does. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing when you allow the brain chemistry to actually take over and dictate. One of the things like, you talked about beef and not liking that. I tell people, you don't necessarily have to eat beef. But what I like to see people do is when they start out on this, try a little bit of everything. Because what you say you don't like now could be your favorite food. I have before told people, one of the things I recommend is cod liver oil. And one of the things, one person came to me and she's like, I cannot choke this stuff down, whatever. So we did some EFT, energy medicine around it and what her issues were and what her preconceptions. And then she calls me about a week or two later and says, I started craving cod liver oil, like as a snack. She's like, I woke up one night and I couldn't get back to sleep. And all I could think of is there's some cod liver oil in the fridge. So, once you get all of your baggage out of the way, your brain knows what it needs. Just, let go of the preconceived notions about this stuff. Sorry, but one thing that I remember telling you as well was, just start by, I think I told you at one point, just start by switching your salt. This was about a year ago when you first started
I did it a year ago. And I've had the Celtic sea salt since then. Right. So that was a small change.
Right. Exactly. But one of the things I remember saying is that, it was, because I remember it was close to the holidays. And I said to you, well, Christmas is coming up. Ask your friends or anybody who's going to buy you gifts to just give you gift certificates to Ross and TJ Maxx and Marshall's and all these other stores where you can get sea salt for cheap,
Yeah.
and you can get it cheaper there than you can at the health food store. And, you can just, make it your gift to yourself. We will you mentioned just before we got on air that you had to reprioritize what's important in your life. Tell us a little bit about that. What did you find that you really didn't need that you thought you needed before versus now where you're saying, okay, I'd rather put that into my food.
My boyfriend is not eating this way. He's eating whatever he eats. So my church has sort of like it's not really a food bank, but where they have, some food for cheaper. So we've been shopping for him there, which then kind of frees up a little bit more money for me to get the organic.
Okay.
But also, somehow we got into the habit of getting Dunkin' Donuts coffee every day again. So I had before we went to Disney, I had cut myself off caffeine, but I was still drinking decaf and with the Splenda and all the crap in it. And that was twice a day. That adds up quick.
Yeah.
So getting rid of that, I mean, that in itself right there was a big, because there's two of us. So, it's little things that you don't even realize that you're spending your money on, but you can, I haven't yet, but if I wanted to make coffee or tea or something at home, I can do that so much cheaper. And this all goes to my food now.
Right.
And where all of that was making me feel crappy before and dependent on the caffeine and all of that stuff, that's all gone now.
Right.
And there's not even a craving for it anymore.
Right. And that's another really, really important lesson for us, which is that people often look at this and they go, oh my God, I can't believe, the meat is, 50% more or 100% more, whatever, it costs more than the conventional stuff. The vegetables cost more than conventional. It really depends. Sometimes one of the things I sometimes tell people, go at the end of the farmer's market. Go when the people at the market don't want to carry this stuff home.
Okay. That's a good idea.
You go at the end and they'll give you 10 turnips for $1 or whatever. There's always ways, again, we're buying the cheapest cuts of meat. You asking your friends to give you gift certificates to the places that carry the stuff that you want. Your family, if they care about you, they'll do the same. There's just so many little things that you can do. And once you get to know your farmers, that's the other thing. Once you get to know them and they know that you're bringing them more customers, they'll give you a bonus. They'll throw in a head of broccoli or whatever it is. They're like, oh, you've been a good customer. Like the other day, I got to the farmer's market after my farmer was pretty much sold out and she decided she was going to pack up. And I ran into her in the parking lot and she's like, here, just take this. And she like loads me up with fennel and lettuce and, what was the other thing? I think it was radishes or something. And I said, how much do you want for it? And she's like, don't worry about it. You buy from me all the time and you bring us customers all the time, so, so you get a relationship and it's reciprocal.
Yes.
And and what I love about this too is that it helps build community.
Yes, absolutely. And it's also, supporting at least in our state, it's supporting the small businesses.
Oh, totally.
Small guys.
Absolutely.
And, that doesn't happen enough.
Yeah, it does not. And people love to talk about, equal wages and all of this kind of stuff, but it starts with where you live. Start in your own backyard. So start, taking care, take care of them and they'll take care of you. It's really, you don't build that shopping at the supermarket. Let me just put it that way. You might know the person who checks you out, but it's not on this deeper level where you have this common goal and mutual respect for one another and what the other is trying to achieve and what they're bringing to you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what do you see for your future? Because you're not even going like whole hog into like a really deep, you're getting coaching, but not necessarily like a really deep, like all the tests and all of that stuff. Where do you see yourself going? Do you think you could ever slip back into your bad habits? And
I hope not.
Right.
I would have never thought I would have gotten back into them the first time around. So, I hope
Right.
not. I think I have much more knowledge this time around
Yes.
about nutrition and not necessarily just don't eat fattening things and, the normal stuff that we normally go by. Um, I relied a lot on dairy as my protein
Uh-huh.
prior to, when I had first had the surgery, and a lot of beans and like legumes and stuff that I don't really eat now. Um, and that was how I would get. So I think that even though I was eating probably less calories and a little bit healthier, it still wasn't necessarily as good as I thought now looking back.
Hmm.
So I don't think that I don't think I could ever fall back because I know too much now. That's the first thing.
Right.
And hearing you speak in the group and everything, I take it in, but it's different when I'm actually practicing it.
Right.
Because now it's like I really know because I've had my own personal experience. So I think that would be one reason why I don't think I would fully go back. And the other thing is I don't want the pain and the skin issues to come back.
Right.
So I wouldn't doubt. I I had one day where I was feeling good, and then the next day I didn't feel well, and then I remembered we went to the farmers market. I didn't bring any water with me. I was so thirsty.
Right.
I went to the machine, and they were out of water, so I got Lipton iced tea, and
Right.
took maybe a third of it, and then said I'm not going to have any more. I just had to have it because I was so thirsty. And the next day I felt like crap, and I
Yeah.
said, yeah, no, you know what I mean? It's not worth it to me, not
Right.
at all.
Right, right. Yeah. It's, and now I think, again, like you have to eat a little bit of everything, right? Is what I was talking about before. So now that your brain knows that, whether it's the, beef or stock or whatever makes it feel good, there might be days where you want that Lipton iced tea or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where you have that little thing where it's like, I don't know why, I just really want this. But your brain will always go back to the stuff that has nourished it. Now your body understands. And now
Yes.
you've given yourself that permission to eat these things that maybe were either off limits to you because you were told don't eat fat or what have you. And now your brain is like, oh no, I know why I don't feel good. I'm craving pork rinds.
Yes. And it's so funny to make the mental shift to say, I'm cooking this with lard. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's okay. When I try to tell people what I'm eating, I go, yeah, I use lard or, butter or, I make like if I get tallow from my own bone broth or whatever, that's
Right.
the stuff that I cook with. And people are like, lard? And I go, I know. It sounds like whatever, but you think back to when we were kids and mom had the Crisco on the counter and that's what they cooked with.
Right. Right. And Crisco ain't no lard,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hydrogenated and all that other nasty stuff. And it is that stuff that gave lard the bad name.
Right.
It was the marketing behind it, but then the health, the ending, health, outcomes, still people lumped it in with lard, lumped lard in with it, I should say, and said, oh, see, all that stuff is bad for you. That's why lard is bad. And it's like, but it's not even lard. It's supposed to function like lard, but it's not. Chemically, it's not lard. I'm going to let you go, but, before I do, what would be, your top words of advice to anyone who's sitting on the fence, anyone who is sitting at home right now in pain, just can't make the shift, doesn't know where to begin? What would you recommend for them?
This is what I've said to other people who have asked for me. I said, if you don't feel like you can jump in full force, because it is a lot, it can be overwhelming. Get rid of the processed stuff. Start there.
Right.
No packaging, that's kind of, if you can do that and you can't do organic yet and you can't do grass fed, if you can start with that, I think you'll get a little bit more control and I think you'll be able to go further.
Right.
That would be, and the second thing would be, I had thought that I was going to feel better in 2 days and it took me a week or two and
oh my God, you've been suffering for years and it
I know.
and you thought it was going to be done in 2 days, right?
Yeah. Because that's me. I like instant
No, but this is America, right?
Yes. But I mean, now that I'm on that other side, I never thought I would feel like this again. Never. I almost feel normal again.
Right.
So just that alone, for people who chronically have, autoimmune or chronic pain and stuff, that alone is worth it. It's just do it and give it a chance, and you know what I mean? You'll be amazed, because I'm amazed.
Right. And, I think I even said something along those lines to you early on, because you were talking about the expense. And I said, you know what? Don't even worry about that yet. Don't worry about organic. Don't get hung up on the organic label.
Right.
Just make sure that what you eat in some way can be identified in nature.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like you don't see bags of potato chips growing. Okay.
Right, right.
So, but just try to get with the basics of what real is.
Yes.
And then you can start,
Tweak
moving
it as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you make those shifts. And again, like we said, just start with the salt. Just replace all of that highly processed salt with just real something that was either mined or came, from seawater.
Yeah.
Just make those little shifts, but keep yourself on top of it. Don't just stall out. Oh, I changed my salt. Nothing happened. Well, this. No,
Right.
you gotta make a little bit more of an effort. Just keep on top of yourself, whether it's once a week, once a month, just make consistent changes. And another thing, and don't be surprised if this happens. Over the years of doing this, I have seen people go from broke to thriving economically. And part of what I think is happening is that people have such clarity once they start eating better. Their brains function better. They have more energy, more creativity, if that's what their job demands. They start to impress the boss.
Yeah.
Fewer sick days, better productivity, better churning out the work that they need to do. And the boss gets impressed. So I see a lot of people, getting raises, where they had stalled out before, getting promotions. It's amazing how deep this can affect your life. Is the basics of what I'm trying to say here.
I can see the difference in my job performance.
Right.
Absolutely.
Fewer mistakes, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
So, this is, something that perhaps you can look forward to. And then, it might be one of those things where you just decide that you want to go into business for yourself, but now you have the energy, you have the clarity, to be your own boss. And because it takes a lot to be your own boss. and as I know, but yeah, you'll find that there's going to be dividends, everywhere in your life. When you go on vacation, you can have a totally different vacation experience. And that's something that, maybe we can get into another time. But, I know for me, I basically do the same thing that I do at home when I go to new places, and I get to see things that I never would have seen on a tour or sitting in a hotel, because when I travel now, I rent an apartment somewhere, which is way cheaper than a hotel. And then I start, stop at every grandma's house that has a sign out that says that she's selling eggs or wine or whatever the heck, and I start meeting the locals in all of these different places and connecting with their food traditions and learning like what real food was to the older generations there. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff that you will start to, as you go through this and as you carry this with you and all of this knowledge that you're now, implementing, it's just going to change your world. It's going to give you a totally different.
It already is.
So, thank you so much for being on with us today, Robin. And
thank you for having me.
Oh, I am so excited for you. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show. As a reminder to people that this shit works, man. Don't cut yourself short and, make this life count. We all, we've got all these beautiful memes and Wayne Dyer and all this stuff people love to quote all over the internet, but so much of it relies on you feeling good and you can't just mask that over. As I think that you've learned, through the surgery and the pills and all the other stuff that you've done. Let's just start, to back up to basics. Where were humans before all of these interventions? Let's mimic that. And then, we still may need some intervention. Then we can start tweaking. But this is what I say is the basics for anyone who wants to improve their health status, the way they feel, the way they look. again.
Absolutely.
Our guest heretic today is Robin Crowle. She is a success story who is Frenching her food, for lack of a better description. She's not exactly following that book, but it is many of the same principles that apply. And thank you again, and good luck to you in the new year.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Nutrition Heretic Podcast is a production of Savor the Journey, LLC. Our audio editor is Nikola Popovich. Our podcast manager is Crystal McLean, and our operations manager is Linda Hansen. I'm your host, Adrian Hugh, the Nutrition Heretic. You can find us at nutritionheretic.com, where you can download the Nutrition Heretic's free shit list of 7 health foods to avoid like the plague. You can also listen to previous episodes at nutritionheretic.com/podcast. Be sure to like us on social media for updates. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/nutritionheretic and on Twitter @NutriHeretic. Contact us with show ideas, questions, or if you just want to be a guest. And don't forget to rate our podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. Thanks.